Still Poddable, still Poddable. Boston Celtics, still Poddable, still Poddable. Oh yeah! Still Poddable, still Poddable. Boston Celtics, still Poddable, still Poddable. Banner 19.
Beat Rob, Jim, Packard, J. King.
Still Poddable, still Poddable.
The Caesar on the court to get another ring.
Still Poddable, still Poddable.
Everybody in the chat now sing.
Still Poddable, still Poddable. Still Poddable, still Poddable. Boston Celtics, still Poddable, still Poddable. Oh yeah! Shut your ass up, man.
My daddy's always had one there.
Welcome back to Still Poddable, the best Celtics podcast here on Al Gore's Internet. This is episode 496. I am Sam Jam Packard.
Did you just come up with a random number?
Yeah, it's a new bit I'm trying out. I'm Sam Jam Packard, joined by Jay King from The Athletic. Are you upset? Are you upset about the new bit?
How often have you tried that?
This is the second time.
Did the numbers line up?
No,
Or
last
did you
time it
just
was
use the same
300.
number at the same time?
No, last time it was 320.
What are you going to go with next time?
It's going to be a random number each time. But now I feel like it's over. I feel like you sniffed out that bit and you squashed it immediately. And so I probably can't do it again. So well done, Jay King. A tip of the cap to you.
I'm out here exterminating rodents, bro.
Yeah, you're an expert. How is let's get a mice update on the home before we dive into this podcast.
The exterminator came today. So the other aspect of this, I don't even know if I said it on the last podcast. I might have. We reached out. So it started on Friday. We reached out to our landlord, and it was his wedding day, and he never responded. And we were like, "Why, is he not
Bro,
responding?"
you absentee landlord.
It was his wedding day. So it was I mean, just a comedy over here. But the pest control came today.
They walk out of there with like a burlap sack full of mice carcasses.
No, they just dropped like little boxes that have poison in them, and basically the poison like takes a long time to impact them. And it's kind of like in the movies when like you take a little poison and then like you get like progressively slower and slower and then you're just done. Like I guess they can go back to their nest. Do they have nests? I think they have nests. And then they get back to their nest and they're cooked.
Well,
so
aren't they just stuck in the walls then? Don't you have I guess you're moving out of the place. It's not your problem, but don't there just gonna be dead mice in the walls?
I'm out of here. I don't care. I don't care. But yeah, I guess so. But then they can go in there and figure it out.
Do you
not
feel
my problem. After
like
Saturday when I move, it's not my problem.
You have to disclose this to a potential buyer? Do you think this would show up on a standard inspection? Is the housing market so crazy?
So
in
my
Boston
landlord is selling the place.
Yeah, I know.
He's selling the place. I would guess like
I know,
don't know if you have to. You would probably have to disclose that.
I know, but if such a crazy market in Boston and people sometimes buy homes without having a full inspection, then they find out 6 months from now they're going back listening to Still Poddable. Maybe they're listening to this podcast on the CLNS YouTube page, the free episode this week, and they find out that the house they just bought, maybe they're thrilled initially. It's like, wow, the legend, the kid that got himself, Jay King, lived in this home, sired a son in this home. But then they remember, wait, this place is filled with mice. So I think you've done your part in disclosing it publicly here in this public forum.
But nobody knows the address or anything, so
that's good. And we should probably keep that to ourselves. Although you are leaving on Saturday.
But we haven't had any mice. We haven't seen any mice. We've had the traps out. Haven't caught any mice. So we're a little hopeful that the problem, at least until we're gone, is finalized.
Have you gone to the new place and done a mouse inspection?
No.
What if it's a you guys issue? What if you guys are attracting the mice? Have you considered that?
So I have had mice in a couple previous stops, but none of them were this brazen. These were the most brazen fucking mice,
I
man.
would argue you've gotten more brazen over the years. No,
These
you've probably
were
gotten
like
less brazen.
these were like, who's the most aggressive Celtics player of all time? These are like Jordan Crawford mice, like just totally out of control. Don't know what you're going to get from them. Every once in a while, you might get Eastern Conference Player of the Week.
Aaron Nesmith mice.
Yeah, those things are reckless. I mean, sometimes they're hopping up on the high chair, gathering crumbs, making great plays. Other times they're sitting in the high chair while we're in the kitchen area and just in trouble, getting everybody caught up in the trap game. So
How would they respond to playing on a twisted ankle though? Because Green Bean, we got to get. Do you remember the name of Aaron Nesmith, this AAU coach who we would talk to on the Athletic app?
oh man,
Because I've been trying to think about it. And I could not.
he was awesome. He was our greatest listener. You put me on the spot right now, and I don't.
I've been trying to remember the name. I want to say it was like John or George or something, but I got nothing. The AAU coach of the Greenville, whatever, in South Carolina, also coached Chris Middleton. Man, do I want to hear from that guy after this kind of Nesmith.
Do you think he's moved on to like a Pacers podcast? Because that would kind of make me sad.
It would make sense though. I don't think he was in it for us. I think he was in it for Nesmith talk. And
of course, but
well, I don't know. I feel like he was just a subscriber to the Athletic and then got a ping notification that people were talking about the Celtics, and he just started listening. I don't think like on the live shows, and so I don't think there's an Athletic Indiana Pacers podcast. At least there is. I'm unaware of it.
I don't think there's any Athletic podcast.
That man needs to get his takes off and needs to talk about Aaron Nesmith.
Exactly. We might have to go find him and drag him back.
If anyone who's been here since the Anything is Poddable days remembers the name of our main man, please drop it in chat. Please, or comment on this episode, because we need to talk to that guy. He was an original legend of the podcast.
Awesome. He was awesome. Great.
And he was like super positive and optimistic about Aaron Nesmith, but also like,
and he was right about Aaron Nesmith.
He was right. He was also like realistic and like understood the situation he was in, and also like he was. Oh man, that guy rocked.
That's why Nesmith ended up making it, because he had people in his corner who understood. Like, yes, we believe in you. We think you're going to do really well, but also you're behind a lot of really good players, and this is not really the situation for you, and you haven't played well at all. You haven't shot the ball well at all. But one day he knew. And Aaron Nesmith's been really good. Aaron Nesmith has been fearless too. He's taking charges on his ankle. He's out there dunking on his ankle. Like, that dude just plays 150 miles an hour. He plays like a tornado.
When it's a little bit more in control than it was in Boston. And I think his like defense, just physical defense on Brunson, has been fantastic. Something that was interesting in the broadcast, they were talking about Rick Carlisle. And as soon as the trade happened, apparently Brad said to like Carlisle's like, you got a good one here. So Brad knew that Nesmith had some talent. Incredible draft that was still a Danny Ainge draft, right? That where he got Nesmith and Pritchard.
Yeah, that was still Ainge
in the same year. So Brad knew the talent was there, and the kind of the work ethic was there. Was just like, this is not the situation where it's going to like, he's going to figure out playing behind Jalen and Jason.
And also, like, he played sparingly. And so I think his confidence in his jumper wavered a little bit. He still had like a long way to go skill-wise. It's really interesting when you look back on it, because like, if you look at his college tape, people thought he was going to be a bad defender. People thought he was going to be
and he was going to be a sharpshooter. Didn't he shoot like 56% from three in his 1 year at Vanderbilt?
I think it was 52 or 53. Yeah, but it was a special shooting season. And so he came in with one reputation, and then to have to earn minutes, he had to totally flip it, like just become a war dog. That was I kind of like that phrase. He had to become a war dog. Yeah.
Have you seen the movie War Dogs with Jonah Hill and Miles Teller?
I have a few times.
Multiple times. Yeah, I enjoyed it.
Yeah, if it comes on TV, I'll watch that thing. So he was kind of a war dog. He had to become a war dog. But if you talk to his old coaches in high school, he was always a war dog. Like he used to like scream and shit before games where they had to like calm him down. Like Aaron, just take a few breaths. Like you don't have to do war noises before before games. And so I think his reputation coming out of the draft was like a little misleading in that it didn't really let you know about the crazy competitive side. But that crazy competitive side has been what's made him such a viable player on a team that's about to probably make the NBA finals, which is it's a really cool story, I think.
I think the thing that's interesting is, and it's always interesting about players in the NBA, is like how much context and situation matters and development, how you are able to adjust to, especially for like the Celtics young players this season. Like you're not going to get that much of an opportunity. Can you come in instantly off the bench and just immediately, you know, why can't I think of the word produce results is what I was looking for. I think that's one of the most fascinating parts of heading into next season is that we have no idea what the roster is going to be, but we know Jason Tatum's not going to be there. And we know, I feel like at least that there's going to be more opportunities for someone like Shireman or maybe just other fringe guys. Like we've never really seen Joe Mazzulla had to develop or play like an extended bench because he inherited a very talented team where the goal was the title. And so I'm kind of curious about like what you think his approach is to development. Is he's the type of guy who's like Brad Stevens, like you need to earn it on the defensive end before we're even going to let you into this game. And then how does that work with the rest of the kind of his coaching staff? Because he had a pretty experienced coaching staff 2 years ago, and then lost some guys in Charles Lee and Jeff Van Gundy. And so I'm asking you multiple questions at once, but like, first, like, what do you think his kind of approach to development will be as with a kind of less talented roster next year?
I don't think the approach to development will change. I think like behind the scenes, I've always been impressed by the way the Celtics work. Like the reads they do at practice every day, the speed that they go through drills with. And I think you've seen a lot of guys like really grow in how they understand the game, which is really probably the most important piece of development and a piece that isn't really talked about a lot when you're talking about, oh, can a guy shoot a little bit more? Can a guy like dribble a little more? It's like, can he understand the game? Does he know how to read screens? Does he know how to come off screens? Does he know how to do all that stuff?
Practicing that stuff at full speed is what my boy Nick Friedman, who just signed to become part of the Wake Forest Demon Deacons, he's going to be the lead.
Sweet.
Lead offensive coach assistant, and he's like running the whole offense down there.
Congrats!
So shout out.
That's awesome.
It's I'm about to become a huge Demon Deacon fan. They're going to about to do crazy things in the ACC. But when he would talk about player development, he would always talk about like you have to run things that the guys are going to see in practice, and you have to run them at full speed so they can get used to that decision making. And so like all of his drills would all involve like 4 different things, or it's like read, react, read, react, read, react. And so you're building up like doing things at game speed. And so I would assume most NBA teams doing that, but it sounds like that's something the Celtics really stress in terms of making the right reads and practicing that way, like practicing at that game speed.
Yeah, so I don't think the approach to that part of development will change, but obviously you're probably going to get a little less talented, or at least like less established talent, fewer guys that have made all-star teams and stuff like that. You're going to have to trade away at least one starter, and that could open the door for like a guy like Baylor Shireman, a guy like Jordan Walsh. And I think especially like their minutes were so sporadic and so short, and you just kind of had to either like you had like 15 minutes. Could you take advantage of it? And it's totally different when you know you're going to get extended run, when you have the confidence that you're going to play no matter what. And I think we've seen Nesmith kind of capitalize on that, take advantage of it, use the freedom of it to catapult himself and catapult the Pacers, quite frankly. But I think like those guys could benefit from having a little bit more runway, a little bit more leash, to where you don't have to worry about like if I don't play well for a 5-minute stretch, I might not play for 3 more weeks. And I think that can be very powerful. And I think probably the other way can be very powerful too. Like I have to be on my shit. I have to play every possession. I have to play great defense. I have to be locked in, or else I might sit for 3 weeks. Like that's probably a powerful motivator too.
Well, I feel like some people can do that and some people can't. Like another Nick Friedman story is like most of the guys in the G League just couldn't do that. Like they can, that's people can thrive in the G League because they know they're going to get 35 minutes. But when they get called up to play that role in the NBA and they don't know when their minutes are coming, there's a huge mental part of that. Like they're just basically as talented as the lower half of the NBA, but it is really that like ability to perform on command that kind of separates a NBA player from a high G League player.
And it's really hard to keep that confidence like day in, day out when your minutes can change, when you might not play at all. Like that's especially for a guy like all those guys have been stars their whole lives. Like for the most part, everybody at every level has been the best player, second best player on their team. And then to become the 13th, 14th guy or 11th, 12th guy or whatever it is, that is really challenging. And it's something that can probably take a while to get used to. Some guys just never adapt to that. Some guys, but I think next year, like, could be a time for somebody to kind of step up. And I mean, I'm going to bring up Peyton Pritchard because he's kind of had that happen to him like 3 or 4 different times throughout his career. But it's like he's had years where he didn't play much. And then he's had years where it was like he just made himself valuable. He made himself a part of the plans. And he just kept using it. He kept using it. He kept getting better and better. And then all of a sudden they couldn't deny him. And they were like, all right, let's trade some guys. Let's clear a path for Peyton Pritchard. He deserves to play. Even, 2023 finals, 2024 finals, rather. He doesn't play that much. He comes back the next year and he's like, I'm going to be undeniable. They're going to have to play me in the playoffs. And he ended up playing more in the playoffs than he ever had. And having great games and really being a significant contributor in the playoffs. Probably should have played more, at least maybe should have played more. So I think there are a lot of examples like that. But Baylor Shireman and Jordan Walsh, those are the 2 guys I'm looking at, because without Jason Tatum, obviously there's going to be more minutes on the wing than anyone could have anticipated. Like that's 37 minutes a night that will be split up between the rest of the roster. Obviously some roster stuff is going to change, but if those guys are still around, could be a real chance for those guys to just kind of stake their claim to minutes moving forward.
That brings me to my next question. Who do you think's more of a war dog or has more war dog potential, Jordan Walsh or Baylor Shireman? Like Walsh, I feel like is the more athletic player. I think has more skills on the defensive end. Shireman obviously has like kind of the playmaking and processing of the game. There's also like a 6-year age gap between the two, but they're both young players. If you had to bet right now, end of May 2025, a year from now, who do we think of as like kind of the more NBA ready prospect?
The more premier war dog.
Yeah, I don't know if you can rank war dogs, but sure.
You can rank war dogs. So they're like it's very tough to compare them, I think. And I'm gonna kind of pussyfoot around this answer. Yep. Yeah.
Middleman Jay King never likes to take a stance.
I like to take a stance when it's worth taking a stance, but sometimes nuance is the best path. And here, like Jordan Walsh was 20 this year. Is that the truth? I think he was 20 this year. And he's very raw offensively, but also like that dude could be a difference maker defensively. He's 21, just turned 21 in March. he can be a difference maker defensively. Like I think there are few limits to his defensive upside. Like he could be an all defense type guy one day. I really believe that. He's long, he's smart, he's tough, he stays in front of guys, he's disruptive. Like he has a chance to be a special defender. And the wild card with him obviously is like, can he put it all together? Not even put it all together, but do enough offensively to where he's not a zero and where he's
We've
not
seen
losing
some
his confidence
flashes
all
of
the
him
time.
knocking down some threes. Like,
But I think it comes and goes with him. And I think like confidence wise, it's just not there. And it's just not gonna, it hasn't been steady. It's been, like you said, like comes and goes.
but does a season where he gets at least 22 minutes a game every game change that confidence for him? Because he's actually gotten an opportunity.
It absolutely could. Like I think that could be one of the benefit. Obviously, there aren't many benefits to Jason Tatum tearing his Achilles, but like some of the benefits could be that the younger guys get a bit of runway that they wouldn't have had otherwise. And Jordan Walsh, clearly one of them. Baylor Shireman, he's a totally different prospect, totally different type of prospect, but you love the way he competes, the way that he's got like a swagger to him that just is kind of rare in a guy that didn't play many minutes until the end of the season. Even then, didn't really have a consistent role. And he was out there like blowing kisses and shit, like talking to the opposing bench. It's like, who does this kid think he is? But that's kind of what drives him. And he's also like quick thinker, smart, usually in the right spot defensively. Doesn't have nearly the defensive playmaking upside that Jordan Walsh does, but also is right now a better shooter, better decision maker, better passer, all of those things, and just understands the offensive side of the game a lot better than Jordan Walsh does. And I think has a lot more confidence than Jordan Walsh does. So it's like they're two totally different players, and they're totally different ages. Like Jordan Walsh is still just turned 21, whereas Baylor Shireman just finished his rookie year, but he's significantly older.
He's
And
24.
Yeah, so it's like a weird, it's hard to compare those two, but I think either one of them could make something of themselves, but I'm also not like sold on either one of them. I think both of them have shown enough that I'm like intrigued, but I wouldn't be willing to be like, yeah, like Jordan Walsh will definitely be a hit for the Boston Celtics. Or like, yeah, Baylor Shireman will definitely be a hit. I think at this point it's up in the air.
I didn't ask you to pick a hit. I asked you to rank War Dogs. Which
War
one is
Dog
going to
number
be better?
one.
Which one's going to be better?
Baylor Shireman, War Dog number 1. Jordan Walsh, War Dog number 2.
There we go. That's all I'm looking for. I had another question about coaching, but I don't think it's an answerable question, but it's interesting. What do you think the impact of losing Charles Lee and Jeff Van Gundy was on this staff? And is any analysis of that purely based on the results of them losing? Like, did you notice anything in terms of like coaching decisions throughout the year that you could be like, oh, they were really missing that veteran coaching experience?
I don't think there was any moment where I was like, you know what? They're
Jeff
missing
Van
something.
Gundy really would have changed that game.
Jeff Van Gundy would have turned that one around. I don't think, like, those guys are both super highly respected. Obviously, Van Gundy's been around forever. Everyone just praises the hell out of him, especially on the defensive end.
Do you think Jeff Van Gundy would have said, stop playing Kristaps Porzingis? Because Joe could have used that voice in the locker room, if you ask me.
I mean, first of all, I would guess that there were some people telling him not to play Kristaps Porzingis. I don't think it's like every fan knows Kristaps shouldn't be playing.
No one with the clout of Jeff Van Gundy, though. That's the biggest question is like, was there enough people in the room that Joe Mazzulla is like, I really respect their opinion? Yeah. And this is wild speculation.
They still had a good staff. They still had a good staff. I just think at the end of the day, they blew 2 games that they shouldn't have blown. I don't think that was on the coaches. I don't think that was on the coaches.
Too.
I don't think that was on the coaches. And like, what would a coach have done differently other than sit Kristaps?
Tell the boys to make shots. To make
Good
one
coach.
shot in the final 8 minutes of game 2, and then you don't blow both those games.
Would have been pretty helpful.
I'm still pissed off about it, Jay. They just needed to make one shot. They lost by 1 point in game 2. Jason Tatum had a wide open 3 in the corner and missed it. That's burned into my brain. And we're not allowed to get about that because he tore his Achilles. But no,
you're still allowed.
Yeah, well, it was pretty upsetting.
Still allowed.
All right. It's time for everyone's favorite part of the podcast. Reckless trade speculation. We got a report.
This isn't reckless. We can't call it reckless trade speculation if it's a B-Rob report. This is legitimate trade speculation.
Oh, well, we'll get to the reckless part of it, but we'll start with the bona fide legitimate journalism from one Brian B. Rob of MassLive.com, who reported today from a league source that the Clippers are interested in one Drew Holiday. Your thoughts, Jay King, as an also well-established reporter?
It's just hard to see what the Celtics would be getting out of that.
Are you not interested in Bogdanovich and Derek Jones Jr. and saving $6 million?
So if you do save $6 million, you're still going to have to make another move.
You still have to trade Sam Hauser just to try and get under the apron.
Would they get Bogdanovich and Derek Jones? Like, would that actually be an offer? Because would you offer Bogdanovich and Derek Jones for Drew Holiday?
I might be like, I think you're adding, that's like a consolidation trade where you're adding a starter. It moves Norm Powell to the bench where he seems like to kind of thrive in that 6-man role. I think there's I don't know why the Celtics want Bogdanovich. I don't know why
He'd be fine. He'd be fine.
He'd be fine. He'd
like
be fine.
Like fine.
The thing is, though, like, it feels like you don't really want to take back that much salary if you're just making this salary cutting deal. Like, the whole thing is,
the whole point is to clear salary
and to get under that apron. So just cutting $6 million doesn't feel worth it. And there's not a lot of teams with cap space. All the trades that make the most sense. And I spent a lot of time on the trade machine today, and I'll say it was after work. After work, I spent a lot of time on the trade machine.
We are recording at close to 10 p.m. right now. So
yes,
there was a lot of time. Work. There was a lot of time for him to hop on the trade machine post work.
There's
not on the clock.
Not at all. There's not a lot of good deals out there. The NBA salary structure is, for lack of a better phrase, fucked.
I thought you were going to say poppycock.
It's both fucked and poppycock. Everyone either makes $50 million a year or they make $5 million. And so it's really hard to consolidate. Like, you just look at teams with possible cap space and you try to come up with deals. It's like, you either get Bogdanovich and Derek Jones for the Clippers, Tobias Harris. Like, they don't really want to trade Tobias Harris from the Pistons. The Mavericks deals still make some sense to me. But like a lot of the deals that look the most beneficial for the Celtics is just asking the Nets to take on a bunch of salary just because they have the cap space. And maybe you throw in some picks and maybe they do that because then that Clippers deal looks a lot better.
Well, here's what it would be is the Celtics get player X who makes a lot less than Drew Holiday. And then the Nets get player Y and a pick to absorb the extra from the other team, so that the other team is giving their pick not to the Celtics but to the Nets or whoever would be absorbing salary.
Why is the other team having to give up a pick if they're getting Drew Holiday?
To get Drew Holiday, they're giving up a pick.
I feel like the Celtics have to give up a pick because they're the ones who wants to facilitate this trade. If they're just demanding that the Nets get to take on Derek Jones Jr. they're not going anywhere. That's the thing about the Nets is so confusing. I have no idea what they're doing with their roster. And so like anyone could kind of make sense.
The hope from the Celtics side would be that they would be able to take one player and another team would absorb the salary of another player and get a pick to facilitate.
And that's the hope is that Drew Holiday has enough value at this point that the team interested in acquiring him
Would want to give
despite him having the 3 years left on his deal at
Correct.
$30 million. And so maybe the Nets do that. And so like in this hypothetical situation, they could take Bogdanovich if they wanted him. The Celtics take Derek Jones. Then they get a lot lower. I think that might get them below the apron and they don't have to trade Sam Hauser at this point. I've also seen, and I don't know if you can.
So are you willing to admit that Sam Hauser, there's a possibility he might not get traded?
Don't use my own words against me. That's not fair.
You are the lawyer here.
I don't know if I agree with you about Drew Holiday's value. No, it's not evidence. You have not recorded it. You have not introduced the evidence into the record.
We actually have it recorded, and I could introduce it into the record, but instead I'll just bring it up because the jury
overruled.
Do you really just have a gavel on deck like that? You just literally. I started talking about the law for 3 seconds, and you had a gavel in your hand. In the third
it's
second.
because you don't understand the rules of evidence. You need someone to authenticate that recording that you put in. How do I know you didn't make that up? You got to have someone on the stand to introduce that evidence.
Josh B will be there.
It's actually an opposing party statement, and you can just introduce that anytime you want. You should really just say, let the record reflect the gentleman from Massachusetts previously stated that he guaranteed Sam Hauser would be traded. I have a question about that. I've seen a lot of people say, oh, he's just going to get traded into the mid-level exception of some team. And I've been trying that on the trade machine, and it's not working for me. And I don't know if that's just because it doesn't work or I'm some sort of idiot. So, Jay King, is that possible? Is a team like the San Antonio Spurs, they just have their full non-taxpayer mid-level, could they just take in a salary like Sam Hauser and not give anything up?
Yeah, the mid-level is now a trade chip as well.
So I don't know if that's working on the trade machines yet, but
if you're the Celtics, and this is counter to your point or your previous belief that Sam Hauser would absolutely get traded, if you're the Celtics, he's a young dude. He's under extremely reasonable contract for years to come. Like, are you sure you want to get rid of that value? Just to shed 10 million, whatever it is, 11 million.
What if it's the difference between the aprons?
There are going to be a lot of ways to get to the apron. And some of the ways to get there will not have anything to do with Sam Hauser. So could it be possible that they need to move him? Yes. Do I think they will want to move a good value contract for no reason whatsoever other than to just get under the apron? I don't think that.
But they need to get under 2 aprons. And so it's like really you have to figure out how much space you're going to save with that Drew deal or a potential KP deal where you need that third team to kind of take on that extra salary so you're not taking as much back. So you don't have to trade Sam Hauser. I'm not sitting here thinking I'm demanding Sam Hauser be marched out of town just because he didn't hit enough 2-point shots and he's a lot balder than he once was. I'm just saying I think it's reasonable if they can find I don't know if they're going to be able to capture, like get under the second apron with just a Drew deal or just a KP deal. I feel like if that's the goal, I feel like it's much more likely that Hauser is gone just because he can fit into another team's mid-level. It's a very easy way to just shed $10 million worth of salary. And I think getting under the second apron, which I think they have like around 19 million to go just to get under the second apron. We're not even talking about the tax because if they're still going to pay the repeater tax. There's a lot of incentives for them to get under the tax. Which is even more money. It just feels like the easiest way to do that is a Drew or a KP trade and then the adding of Sam Hauser. I agree. If you don't have to do that, don't do it, but we'll see kind of what shakes out and how much teams really want Drew Holiday. So far, I feel like we've heard a Mavericks rumor, a Clippers rumor, and a Sacramento Kings rumor. I tried that out on the trade machine today. No good deal came from that.
Can we just talk about the Thunder Timberwolves score right now?
The Thunder are absolutely working the Timberwolves, correct?
65-32 at halftime.
Damn, that's not how you show up in a game 5.
You know what's one thing the Celtics should want to do whenever Jason Tatum gets back healthy? Force some fucking turnovers. That could be a really helpful thing. And I know Joe once wanted to force more turnovers and then was kind of like, you know what? If we force more turnovers, might cause other problems. I'm cool without forcing turnovers. You know what's pretty awesome? When the Thunder force turnovers.
How
and just
many turnovers do you think
everybody.
the Timberwolves have at halftime right now?
They have 14 turnovers.
Wow, it's like you check the box score.
14 turnovers.
Yeah, when the
which is not
Thunder's-
all that surprising. Like, it's a disgusting number. It's a hideous number. It should never happen in an NBA game. But also, like, the Timberwolves turn it over all the time. The Thunder force everybody into turnovers. I feel like the Celtics have to add some level of that. Like, for all the talk about the margins, you're punting on one of the most important margins by not forcing turnovers ever.
So with Drew Holiday, Derek White, Jason Tatum, and Jaylen Brown, I would say for 2 great defenders, 2 above average plus defenders, and Jaylen Brown, I feel like we kind of has his moments.
He's way above average, but he has moments of lapses.
Jaylen Brown's giving up more backdoor cuts than Josh Hart. Am I right, folks? Why was this team not good at creating defenders? You think that's scheme? That's just like we're not going to be that aggressive because we're not going to try and put 2 on the ball that often? What is because those are 4 very talented defenders with a solid rim protector as KP. So there's like, when KP's in the game, you should be able to have a little more fast and loose on the perimeter, knowing you have that protection. What's the reason for the Celtics not being a team that can generate a lot of turnovers?
That's a good question. I think part of it, they just play a more conservative scheme. They try to keep it in front. They try to make sure that they don't just get diced up. And they can do that because they have such a great half court offense. And also they never turn the ball over for the most part. And
so they win that margin. They win the turnover battle most games.
They often do, but how much better would it look if they were like the Thunder and they don't turn it over and then they turn everybody over on the other side? That sounds pretty good.
The live ball turnover is so deadly. Just like it's such easy points the other way. And it's like the ultimate way to win the margins is just to generate those. Like when the Thunder's defense, like they just go into clamps mode and they're like, oh, you're not scoring and we're going to cause 8 turnovers the next 12 possessions. It swings an entire game. Like they swing a game with their defense in ways the Celtics do with like their 3-point shooting.
Yeah. So I just feel like they were able to win a championship, obviously, without it. But to me, like, force turnovers, get better in transition, push the pace a little more. Like, there are ways to just tweak the vision, even if you don't. And obviously, they're going to have to change the personnel. But there are ways to just tweak things a little bit. Like, they have to force more turnovers. They can't be near the bottom of the league again like they have been, especially when a team like the Thunder is out there just making it really tough for everybody.
I concur. Kind of a deviation from the reckless trade speculation power hour we've got going on here. But a fair point. And yeah, the Thunder are marching to the NBA Finals, most likely going to play the Indiana Pacers. I'm not going to engage in any sort of talk about NBA markets or whether or not it's a good finals. It's a good finals. The 2 best teams in the league who earned it through the playoffs are going to be playing in the finals. It will be entertaining. Thunder in 5.
So I think it'll be a very entertaining final.
You think it's competitive though?
I do. I just talked about the turnovers. Pacers are the rare team that plays with like the ultimate freedom, but doesn't turn the ball over. And I think if you turn the ball over against the Thunder a lot, aka the Timberwolves, like you're just drawing dead because there will be too many games where you just turn it over, they go the other way. And like Game 4 was a perfect example. The Thunder lost like every category you could, basically, except for turnovers. And they forced 21 and ended up winning the game. But it was like the Timberwolves shot better from
Timberwolves
twos.
also couldn't get a stop in the fourth quarter.
But they shot better from twos. They shot better from threes. They shot better. They had more offensive rebounds. Like, if you went down the list of everything, like almost everything was toward the Timberwolves. And then the Thunder just forced turnovers. That was it. And it was enough. But I think the Pacers take care of the ball. And then Thunder are great at loading up and sending like doubles and whatever.
You don't want to double Halliburton, though.
And,
like, you want to make him dribble.
And they're probably the best like scrambling defense we've seen in a long time. But I think if you have freedom on the weak side, which the Pacers do, and they also have a lot of like secondary creation on the weak side with Nemhard, they'll have Siakam sometimes will be over there. I just think there are ways that they can punish you where like the Timberwolves can't. Like Jalen McDaniels isn't going to just like break you down and make the next play and then, you know, hurt your scrambling defense. He's either going to score on a straight line drive or he's going to do something bad with it. Or Ant or Julius Randle are going to take too long to process and turn the ball over, and then they're just going the other way. So I feel like the Timberwolves from that aspect, and then like I just feel like running and gunning against the Thunder is, if you can handle the ball while doing that, is probably the way to go because their set defense is just ridiculous, like utterly ridiculous defense. Then I also think they'll be tough for like the double big lineup for Oklahoma City to play because everybody on Indiana spaces the court. And if you can't play that, then their rebounding suffers a lot. I just feel like there are ways that the Pacers will test them that the Timberwolves couldn't. And
how big is Aaron Nesmith going to be? Like, who's the primary defender on Shea?
Then again, like Lou Dort could just take
Dort
Halliburton and just manhandle him, and all my talk could be just totally useless. But I want to see it. I want to see it happen. Pacers are so much fun, man. Like I'm still not sure how actually good they are, but they're a lot of fun.
They're fun, and they like their offense is just so much movement and so much like other stuff. You talk about like the secondary like creation on the other side, but they just like get into like 3 or 4 actions per possession and just like doing so much off ball that it's like, yeah, you don't just have to identify one player and isolate against him. There's more magic to this basketball stuff. So I'm excited to see the Pacers take on the challenge, assuming that they close out the Knicks in 5.
I also feel like Halliburton is just playing at such an elite level right now.
Is he, or is he just playing the Knicks who fucking stink?
I mean, he just played the Cavaliers who did not fucking stink for the regular season at least. And he's been playing like this for like the second half of the playoffs or the regular season rather and beyond. Like last year against the Celtics, they were almost just as good without him, honestly. He played, I believe, 2 games of that series, and then it was like Nemhard, McConnell. Like he's a totally different level than he was in the playoffs last year. I would put probably defensively too. He was just getting burned by the Celtics time and time again. He's just operating at a different level now. There seems to be a lot more confidence in his off the dribble stuff. When they called timeout, when he got the switch on Karl Towns,
he was furious.
He was just furious. That was awesome because he was like, "I'm gonna cook this man. Do not call a timeout. What are you thinking?" And it was like, it showed the extreme confidence he has right now, where he's like, "What the fuck are you doing? I was about to have this man in so much trouble. I was about to have him calling for fucking help." And so I just think he's at a much higher level than he was last season. And so that this team that was, you know, really viable last year is even more so now because Halliburton is just totally on another level.
I think that's fair. I think it's going to make for an exciting finals. I think we will talk about it here on Still Poddable, the podcast for you every single day, Monday through Friday. We appreciate y'all for tuning in. And we'll be back later with more Still Poddable, breaking down every Celtics trade rumor and whatever happens in the rest of the NBA playoffs. And we soon got to get draft coverage in. Picks 28 and 32, folks. Start scouting your prospects on YouTube, although everyone's pulling out of the NBA draft. We'll talk about that some later. But we appreciate you guys tuning in. Be back
Timberwolves
tomorrow.
are coming back.
Oh, well, tune into that too.
It's 73-43.
See you, folks.
Still Poddable, still Poddable. The Boston, still Poddable, still Poddable. Oh.